Hi everyone, I'm Sandy. Welcome back to my channel. Today I have my January reading wrap up for you. January is an interesting month for reading because if you had asked me, I would have said I didn't read anything, mainly because I had a lot going on and I was sick and there's been some stuff going on at work and stress. And clearly when you see what I ended up reading, I was using reading as an escape to get away from everything. That's pretty clear to me now that I look at what I actually did accomplish this month. But yeah, it was a very stressful, very hectic, very busy month. So I'm shocked that I made it nearly as far as I did in all of my massive projects that I have. So yeah, it was very enjoyable too, because I don't know that there was necessarily a bad book really among this big stack. So we'll start with that. But if you like big projects and massive lists and ridiculous TBRs, then I would hopefully you consider giving me a subscribe and giving me a thumbs up for this video. I would love to have you here because that is definitely what I'm all about, a ridiculous amount of books. But what I will start with today is my 1001 book countdown and where I ended up with my numbers. So at the beginning of the year, I started at 831 books, and at the end of January, I hit 825 left. That's pretty amazing. That's 6 books total. I'm thrilled with that. I think that's an incredible accomplishment. And then for my 2024 number, which starts at 52 every year at the beginning of the year, I pre-select 52 books with the idea of reading one per week, hopefully getting that down to 0. It makes me feel like I'm accomplishing something to reduce down that number where the bigger number takes a lot longer to go down. And for that, I ended at 47 left. Again, right on track for January. Absolutely incredible. Thrilled with where that ended up. Someone had asked me in December if I was going to rank or show the ranking for all the books that I read from the 1001 list for the year of 2023. And that is too hard for me to go back and recreate now, but I thought what I would try and do is accomplish that in 2024, and starting with the January reads and where they are ending up of the 6 that I did read. Where would I place them? And hopefully I can keep kind of track of that as I go, and then at the end of the year give you a full ranking of everything. We'll see how it goes. But the first book that I read, or not the first book that I read, but the book that falls at the bottom of everything that I read in the month of January is actually going to be The Good Soldier by Ford Madox Ford. I appreciate what the author was trying to do. I don't necessarily think this is a bad book. I just think that this book isn't necessarily for me. I know some people love this book. It's got quite a reputation out there. But for me, I just found it super chaotic. And I do think that this fell lower because of what else I was reading in the month, that it just didn't kind of work after I read another example of an unreliable narrator. So that one is in the number 6 spot. In the number 5 spot, it ends up being A Short History of Tractors in Ukrainian. I did appreciate this book. There were some parts of it that I thought were really hilarious. It's a family drama with 2 sisters and their elderly father who is marrying a 35-year-old. And there's a lot of pieces in there, but ultimately, I think I ended up putting up this book in number 5 because it made me super sad. I just had a hard time with this one. How lonely the dad was, and it reminded me a lot of what my own parents kind of go through sometimes and how lonely they can end up being. But this one I put in 5. For number 4, this one was a subscriber favorite. The next 4, there's not a bad book in this bunch at all. I think these all kind of ranked in the 4 to 5 star range, so keep that in mind. But for this one, it was a subscriber favorite read, and it was A Pale View of the Hills by Kazuo Ishiguro. And I think I put it in the 4 spot because I was somewhat confused by the girl, by the mother, by the premise, some of those things. It was a fascinating read, and I did like it quite a bit, but I can't say I understood everything, which is why I ended up putting it in the number 4 spot. In the number 3 spot, I think started this in December, but we're counting it for January, is Day of the Triffids by John Wyndham. I was fascinated by this book. I loved the post-apocalyptic component of it and not knowing what was going on with why everyone, the main, I don't want to give away the main part of the story with this one. I was fascinated with this. It lost me a little bit kind of in the middle when a couple of the main characters were separated, and then it became them kind of searching for each other. I liked it far more when the characters were together, but this one ended up in the 3 spot. Number 2 spot, this was tough between 1 and 2. Number 2 spot is another subscriber favorite, and it was Slaughterhouse V by Kurt Vonnegut. Yeah, the story of Billy Pilgrim and how effective this particular piece was. Someone left me a comment that said a lot of like the war components were based off of Vonnegut's own history, which is absolutely incredible. I really did appreciate how this story was told, and it was also very chaotic with a very unreliable narrator. But it worked for me, and I still think about Billy Pilgrim and everything he went through and his chaotic way of viewing the world, and so it goes, which is a main line in this particular book. But this definitely deserves the number 2 spot. I am so glad that my subscribers, several people said that this was a favorite read of theirs. I would have to agree. This is definitely right up there with my top ones for the month of January. The number 1 book that I read off of the 1001 Countdown in the month of January was Oscar and Lucinda by Peter Carey. These characters just drew me in right from the beginning. I love the backstory of Peter. I love the backstory of Lucinda. My only complaint I had about this particular book is that after this large chunky book, the ending felt really rushed. I appreciated where the author went though with the ending. I'd say it's unpredictable. Some of the challenges that the characters have is that they just needed to get out of their own way, and I think they would have been a lot more successful in some things. But just their dynamic and how the story was told and the miscommunication and all those different pieces, I can see why this is a beloved classic. But this one ended up in my number 1 spot. So we'll see what happens. We'll see what happens at the end of the year. Hopefully I can just kind of stack these as I go and put them in order so it's a lot easier for me to do at the end of the year. We'll see how that works. But those were also my 2 subscriber favorite books for the month. My 2 oldest books on my TBR that I read, because I have my 24 TBR veterans, I read The Fourth Bear by Jasper Fforde. Oh my goodness, this book is hilarious at times. This has a main character whose name is Jack Sprat, and Jack Sprat is a nursery rhyme character, but he was the real Jack Sprat. But so there are nursery rhyme characters who know that they were the real one, and other ones that just have the namesake. And he is investigating, at first, the gingerbread man escapes, and he's trying to figure out what happened with that, because he originally was the one who arrested the gingerbread man. But then Goldilocks goes missing, and he is trying to figure out what happened to her as well. And the interconnectedness between the gingerbread man and and also Goldilocks and their 2 stories and him trying to figure out what's going on. Very, very well done. Very tongue-in-cheek at times, but also exceptionally dark. It's funny in places, but also dark. There are also a very large number of literary references in this book. Everything from The Picture of Dorian Gray to David Copperfield, to some of the character names in here. I wrote them on the back. To also some TV references like Columbo and things like that. So it was a lot of fun going through that. I would say if you haven't read The Picture of Dorian Gray, read that actually before you read this, because there are some references to it that may not make sense unless you have read A Picture of Dorian Gray. But this one was great. I had a lot of fun with this one. There was also a big debate about whether or not the gingerbread man was a cake or a cookie. I've never heard of it referred to as a cake, but there was big controversy apparently in this book, because multiple characters had a varying opinion about whether the gingerbread man was a cake or a cookie. So there's that. The other longest book that I read, my other TBR veteran, was How the One-Armed Sister Sweeps Her House by Cherie Jones. Oh, this book is heartbreaking. It's such a hard read. Very well done. I did like the main character quite a bit. I like the grandmother a lot in this particular book, but it's just tragic. It's absolutely sad. And I had a hard time because it's so dark. It is absolutely dark, and it's told from multiple points of view, and you get a lot of different kind of views of the same thing from a slightly different perspective. There's a character in here who I thought was horrible in the beginning, and then you kind of get their backstory and you go, oh, okay, definitely different. The one-armed sister, the very beginning tells the story of the one-armed sister and why that's so important, but it is very tough, very tough. Lots of violence in this, lots of, I would say if you're going to read this, read it with caution, because it is a very difficult read. But that's my other TBR veteran. I also had a group read for This one, A Baden's Gate, written by James S.A. Corey. I read this with Fraser Simon from Springboard Thought, Sarah from Freshly Read Books, and Gemma from Gemma Books. And this is the third book in The Expanse, and it was really, really great to be back in this world. It did not have some of my favorite characters in it, which was a bit of a disappointment, but you get a lot of information in this book. There's some new characters that are introduced, some characters that I loved sadly didn't make it out of this book. I think that was one of the more tragic moments for me. I was reading this and then I left a message for the group going, no, that didn't happen, right? That's not real. Maybe I misunderstood. Maybe this character's still alive. I really wanted the character to still be alive. There are moments in this book that make you wonder who's going to make it out of this point in the series, because at one point I wasn't sure if anyone was going to make it out. So, but it was a great addition. I'm super excited about book 4. I think we're reading that one in April. And then I've also picked up the short stories that I've got from the library, and I've read through 2 of those so far, which are kind of like the in-between, some in-between stories between the main book. So yeah, look for book 4 though, coming in April. Very well done. Such a good one. Maybe that's also why I had such a good reading month, is because I love these books. They are just so much fun. I feel like I'm back with a group of friends who are in immediate peril again and just wanting them to be okay. So that was that one. I also ended up reading another subscriber favorite one. I finished it right in maybe the 1st of February, but I'm going to count it in January. And that was Horse by Geraldine Brooks. This book, I didn't want it to end. I loved the main character, Jarrett, in this book. It's again told from multiple points of view in multiple time periods as well, but it's all interconnected and it takes a minute. So if you're going to read this book, know that the first couple chapters aren't necessarily the ones that are going to suck you in. It's once you start getting with Jarrett, once you start getting with the horse, once you start understanding how all of the storylines intersect, it's very, very well done. There's a lot of history about horse racing in this, it is told in when Jarrett is actually a slave and he goes through the process of the Civil War, or goes through the time of the Civil War and working, and just some of the things that happen in there were just so heartbreaking. There were a couple of times that I gasped at what happened. I was, oh my gosh. And then sometimes things are revealed in the future and then you find out in the past, like what happened to cause that particular thing. And so very, very well done book. This was my first 5-star read, I think, of the year. And I just didn't want it to end. I really didn't. I was so sad when it was over. I loved this book so, so much. And I kind of want to go back and immediately reread it at the beginning and see how I feel about those beginning chapters again. But so well done. Highly recommend this one as a great read. If you haven't read it, I definitely would pick it up because I loved this book very, very much. So thank you to the subscribers who said that this was a favorite. This was a gift actually from my sister-in-law as well, so thank you very much for that. Absolutely loved this particular book. Other stuff that I read, I had a couple Moody Monday books. I had a couple of books that I picked up just to read and trying to do my Read What You Own challenge and trying to get that number down a little bit. I did kind of cheat a little bit and read, some very slim books in here. I did read Roald Dahl's The Magic Finger, which was cute and funny, and the big thing about this one was she has the ability to change something with her magic finger, and it changes how the families think about things like hunting and animals and stuff like that. As always with him, he just has the best kind of like illustrations of these books as well, and it was just a great story. It's not my favorite one. I think the Twits will still manage to be my favorite Roald Dahl, but this one was not bad. I did also read And Then You Die of Dysentery. Lessons in Adulting from the Oregon Trail. What's really funny about this is there's a piece in this that talks about the number of steps you get. And it's like, wow, everything really does go all full circle, doesn't it? As I'm working on my 3 million step challenge. This is based off of a video game, and I can't say that I really knew the video game very well. So it was a quick little read, but there were a number of things in it that I thought were funny. I also read Annihilation by Jeff Vandermeer. I wanted to love this. I did. I wanted to love this science fiction one. I know this is part of a series, and it wasn't my favorite. I struggled through it. It was while I was sick as well, so I'm hoping that wasn't why I didn't like it as much. But this particular book, I don't think I'm going to go on and read more of this particular series. So I did read that one, and the last book that I read was Guts by Gary Paulson. Gary Paulson is the author of Hatchet, which is a fantastic short story where a boy survives a plane crash in the middle of nowhere, and these are the stories that kind of inspired Gary Paulson for different parts of it. I thought it would be other people and other people's survival stories, but in some ways it's Gary Paulson's survival and things that he learned growing up while camping, things like that. So it was okay. It wasn't what I wanted. I love Winter Dance by Gary Paulson, and I loved Hatchet. So it was, like I said, it was okay, but it wasn't my favorite. So yeah, these short little ones were just kind of to get, I think, my read what you own number up to a point that I felt like was reasonable. I don't know how many of those I will actually keep. So like I said, I read a ton considering everything going on, and I do think it was a big escape. But what an amazing, amazing month of reading. A 5-star, multiple 4 stars. There was not a book in this bunch that I was like, wow, this book is a 1-star. I did not have that at all in January, and that is magnificent. I really like it when that happens. I'm loving reading from my own shelves. I think that has been just such a great thing. I've been in the bookstore a couple times, but haven't bought anything. I did have to buy a couple books for the BookTube prize, but that was part of my okay rules that I had, so I'm okay with that. What have you been reading lately? What did you read in January? Have you read any of these books? I would love to hear that. Do you like the ranking of the 1001 books as well? Please let me know that in the comments, because I will keep doing that if it's something that you enjoy. And if you don't feel comfortable leaving a comment, definitely just leave me an emoji. I'm trying to decide what emoji. I don't know. You know what? Let's do the thinking emoji then, since I don't know which emoji. How's that? But as always, like, comment, and subscribe. And until next time, everyone, thanks. Bye.